Hello, everybody. I am back. So, I'm taking a little break or not a little break. I'm just gonna do this one video because I kind of want to do things a bit different, sort of say. So here we are. So I love mythology. I love artwork. So therefore, I did as many or at least a few of you may remember that I made a video going over fan made initial, ultimate, and third tier personas. I will try to put the link to that video in the description below, but as of now, I'm doing a kind of a retake on that video and showcasing the new 12 initial personas of my friend group. And we have a couple crazy ones. Never really expected the designs to coming out well and stuff like that, but they did anyways. And 2 fan-made characters getting their own personas, as well as 10 people that are, as you can see, the me characters getting their own personas. For the horse for this Metopia save file, I made it the Persona 5 unicorn, or at least Shin Megami Tensei unicorn. Oh, sorry, I need to turn this. There we go. So that way it's centered to the screen. So I did SMT's version of unicorn because I had no other ideas what to do with it. And the leader of the group, or at least first person of the group, me, made all these personas, made the unicorn for Metopia, and then I think that covers, I believe, most of everything for the intro part. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel in case if you all are new. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, so the first persona I'm going to discuss is a different one. It's not Susanoo from the first video. I actually changed it up. First is me, codename Raccoon, and my persona Azabon of the Fool Arcana. Now, Azabon in Abenaki mythology is known to being a trickster spirit that is not hostile nor malevolent. So it is somewhat of a good and bad scenario type of being, and I kind of like how I did with Azabon's design. Like, the emphasis on spiritual deities, I feel like Azabon kind of fits my personality well as not really being a being of good or bad, somewhat of both, but not being above morality. Inevitably, Azabon's design being more of a spiritual body instead of legs, it's a tail covering the spirit part, is something that we haven't seen since Vesta in Persona 1, and I like how the design turned out overall. Like, the the fingerless arm sleeve type of thing, to the scarf on the neck, to the quote unquote crystals of the face for Azabon himself, as well as him tearing out blood, as well as the golden chest plate. I'm gonna rating all these personas on a scale of 1 to 10 based off my own preference. So I'm gonna give Azabon an 8 out of 10, mainly because not because it's just mine, but I like what I did with it overall. It's just I wish I could have done things a bit different for him. Next up is codename Rabbit, and her initial persona, Aphrodite of the Lover's Arcana. Now, I like how this design turned out. The emphasis of fertility added into this as a core aspect of the goddess is a pretty great touch because of both the flower and the shell on the shell on the dress and the flower as her weapon. The emphasis of futuristic motifs in terms of the headband on Aphrodite's eyes are pretty great, and I like how I did the blade in the middle of the chest. If it was getting out a little bit of blood on it, I would have given it a lower grading because Aphrodite, she never really did get pierced or anything like that by any other weapon as far as I'm aware. So, admittedly, Aphrodite's still a good design though. The floating gems at the bottom of the dress, the yellow bands, And of course, the pink hair, it's a fine design overall, and I really like it. I'm going to give Aphrodite an 8 as well. Next up is codename Fiend in his persona, Yami Yami of the Hierophant Arcana. Now, Yami Yami in African mythology is known to being an African river god, but it was honestly kind of tricky to getting it designed down because I took a little bit of the SMT5 aspect of things with the darker, or not, actually, yeah, it's more like a darker blue than it's like a cyan blue. I kind of think of it like the cyan body and like the somewhat bluish stripes on its body were a great touch and a reference of the SMT5 version of Nyami Nyami. The fang, the shading, the eye, and the fins overall, I really love how this turned out. I'm going to give Nyami Nyami a 9. And the only reason why it's not a 10 is because, well, it barely lacks. I mean, it lacks, like, not really much of anything besides more of its, like, design. Well, specifically, it being just a snake just curled up into kind of like a cone shape. It's kind of hard to judge that. Like, if it wasn't like that alone, I would have given it a 10, but then again, 9 feels like a more appropriate grade overall. Next is the navigator of our group, codename Moonlight, and her persona, Inanna of the Temperance Arcana. As you can clearly see, basically, these are all fake, but if they somehow were official, then Inanna would have been the first Temperance Arcana persona that's ever been a part of a persona user's kit in the entire franchise. As for Inanna herself, I like how the design came out. The emphasis of fertility in terms of like more of a sunken motif in terms of like being a not really submarine aspect of a particular god for Mesopotamian lore, but Inanna being a Mesopotamian goddess of love, war, and fertility, it was honestly kind of hard for me to design her body, but then again, it turned out very great. The statue turned out well, the, again, submarine aspect type of spectrum motif, which is fine, but I could have done things a bit better, but then again, I like it overall. And the orb is what Moonlight uses for her navigation, and the orb is a core representation of owl eggs, being the summer statues of Inanna that I've seen basically have an owl egg that has been partially well done within her design. I'm gonna give Inanna a I'm not sure. Actually no, yeah, I feel like this is gonna be a 7 for me. Like the only thing keeping it out from an 8 is the statue part being not really that bad. But then again, it's a really good design overall. I'm really glad how he did it. So yeah, 7 for Inanna. Next up in the group is codename Fennec, and his persona, Kitsune of the Emperor Arcana. I don't really know why Kitsune was a part of the Emperor Arcana to begin with. While I was searching for the tarot cards, I looked at their meaning, and then I kind of thought that this was going to be it isn't a bad design. I really like the emphasis of Japanese symbolism within its folklore too, because they are trickster spirits after all for Japanese myth. I like how the moon is like the crescent moon on top, or not on top, in the center of Kitsune's body represents a core aspects of the animal it's based on. The mask, I gotta admit, is a bit too small, but then again, it's kind of like the design I tried to do a fox wearing a kitsune mask, so therefore it just kind of consumes the body, which is a cool aspect, and which I really do like. I'm gonna give Kitsune a yeah. I feel like this is gonna be a 8. I really love this design. All right, next up is codename Dragon and his persona Ao Guang of the Chariot Arcana. Ao Guang's design was also kind of hard since I'm not used to doing Chinese deities. Ao Guang's design was honestly kind of hard, but then again, it wasn't too bad. The emphasis on Ao Guang being a Dragon King of the East Sea of China, it's pretty unique, and the pearl sticking out of the mouth, almost taking a nod to the Chinese chronophage, which is on top of the Chinese corpus clock, which is well, it's an intricate piece in history, is what I'm trying to say. But as for Ao Guang himself, I'm not really that I mean, I like the design, but then again, I don't really think it turned out well. I mean, I like the gems on the shell, but I feel like God damn it. Sorry about that. Fucking phone. Like I was trying to say, as for Ao Guang's design, it looks derpy. I like it because of that. But then again, the clouds could have been a bit different, as well as the fins. Having blades over here just doesn't really seem to bother me that much. But then again, this is a writable persona like Johanna and Dara. But Ao Guang himself is... I feel like Ao Guang is just gonna get a 6 from me. Like, I like the design. I'm not super fond of it, but then again, it does have its perks. It does have the good and bad within its own... Oh my fucking god, the stand. I'm sorry, guys. But it has its own, like, perks for being a dragon god. Alright, next up is codename Elf, and his persona, Cernunnos of the Hermit Arcana. Cernunnos in Celtic mythology is known to being a fertility god. And I took inspiration from the SMT version of Cernunnos, so I did take design inspirations off of that, basically writing the deer skull. And I am really, really pleased at how this one turned out. The emphasis of fertility shown like within the design itself, based off like the dark green of the skin for Cernunnos' upper half, the deer bottom half, the light green like attire on it. It's really fascinating. I really love how this design came out. The only thing I wish I could have done different with Cernunnos are the horn. I mean, the horns on top, like these horns over here, they honestly did turn out ridiculously well. I don't really have any other major gripes with this design, so I'm going to give Cernunnos a 9 out of 10. The only reason why it's not a 10 out of 10 is mainly because the bottom jaw of the deer skull is missing. And that's its design premise, almost. So, yeah, Cernunnos is going to get a 9 for me. I really love how he turned out. Next up is codename Hawk, and his initial persona, Vidofnir of the Sun Arcana. Now, I know what you probably might be asking me. Why Vidofnir, of all beings, is part of the Sun Arcana? Well, Vidofnir was honestly kind of hard, because some depictions of it in Norse mythology is mostly like a rooster of some sort, but then again, some pictures, including the SMT one, have him be like either a crane or like a falcon or something like that. So I combined a rooster, falcon, and crane all together to making Vidofnir's design a little bit more unique. As for Vidofnir itself, in Norse mythology, Vidofnir is I believe is the bird that watches over the crown of the tree Yggdrasil, which is a tree that is, I believe, the resting place of the Norse gods, I think. I haven't really looked at the tree of Yggdrasil far enough, so I might look into that later on today. But as for Vidofnir's design, I do think it looks very goofy, but then again, it looks great, but it just looks so goofy. In a good way, not a bad way. So I'm going to give Vidofnir a 6. I wish it was a bit more serious looking rather than silly. But then again, I like it either way. So 6 for Vidofnir. Next up is codename Raven. and his initial persona, Ibis of the Moon Arcana. Ibis, in Egyptian mythology, is a bird that takes the place of the Egyptian god Thoth, the god of wisdom. Ibis takes the place of Thoth, so therefore people can worship Ibis as Thoth in exchange for stuff not happening like demonic plagues. And the crane aspects of Ibis, similar like Vidolfnir, is honestly kind of interesting to me. It's more crane-like. The Egyptian headpiece as well as the pieces around the eye, it's ridiculously good in every way, shape, and form. I have no major gripes, but then again, the only reason for keeping it a 10 out of 10 is, it can barely fly. Yeah, it can barely, fly, so... Seemingly enough, due to that, I'm gonna give Ibis... Or actually, wait, here's the, full body. I'm gonna give Ibis a 9. I feel like what is stopping it from being 10 out of 10 if the wings were just a tiny bit larger. But then again, it could be suitable for flight if you get your mind into it. And not the way that I mean. If you think it could fly, then in your vision, it would be a 10 out of 10. But for me, as the creator of these, I feel like Ibis deserves a 9 because it can gain flight, but then again, it can't really take off. Almost like Arcan from Pokemon, almost. Alright, so we are down to the last 3 Persona users already, and Personas. So next is codenamed Sin, and his Persona, Kamazat of the Devil Arcana. The reason why I picked the Devil Arcana for Ibis is, or not Ibis, Kamazat, is mainly because Bress, that Reiji Kito uses his initial persona, is the only Devil Arcana persona that we've ever seen used by, a user that has been awakened, not summoned by a compendium. As for Kamazat himself, in Mayan mythology, Kamazat is known to being a bat god and also a spirit of despair and darkness. So I did think the design did turn out pretty well. I like how I did the handle with the sickle becoming stained, rainbow stained glass you can see in the church, which is, I like, but then again, if I made it brown, it didn't really look well, so therefore I thought stained glass is honestly going to be good enough. The bat wings were honestly kind of hard for me to do, considering I don't do bat beings that much, mainly because they're ridiculously tough. But I still like Kamazat either way. I feel like Kamazat is going to get an 8 from me. I really like this design. And I don't really want to have Kamazat having legs. I want it to be more of a flight aspect creature, kind of like Hypnos, except no legs for Kamazat. So yeah, Kamazat, 8 out of 10. I love it. Okay, so we got 10 out of the 12 initial personas so far. But now we're going to get introduced to our animal mascot, which is Morgana, Teddy, stuff like that. So the mascot character for this group is Yuffie Miyazaki. And I know what you're thinking. Don't you dare type it out in the comments section either way. But I wanted to get a little take on Morgana, but not really the creepiness of Teddy. So I kind of think it's more of not a fusion, but then again, it's kind of iffy at best. I made a Palico from Monster Hunter Rise, and I made an old design of Yuffie. So I combined those two designs into becoming a not really so traditional Nahobino. And her persona is Lobotoro of the Empress Arcana. Or no, of the Magician Arcana. And Lobotoro is just a wolf head mixed with a bull head that has gained a wispy-esque motif to it. I have no other comments to say about Lobotoro. In Spanish mythology, it's just Spanish for bull wolf. So a bull wolf is not really that interesting to me, to be perfectly honest. Lobotoro it's fine. The only really thing I can say that's really good about Lobotoro's design is the spiritual aspect of it. But then again, everything else just kind of feels, I don't know. Like Lobotoro is gonna get a 4 from me. Like, or no, I'm gonna give it a 5 just to be generous. Like, I don't really like it, but I don't love it. So yeah, Lobotoro, 5 out of 10. I don't really like it as much as I thought I would. And finally, for this group, for now, is Kiara Kurusu, a goddess of all creation that is basically like with Metis and Aigis, she is my other half. So basically, she's a wished away part for me of where I wanted to. Actually, no, I'm not gonna get into it. So, Kiara Kurusu is basically, she's like Katana Shiomi in a way, but a little bit more of Metis in it as well. So basically, she's a wished away part of myself as well as a own separate deity that has the potential to creating anything within her own cognition. So basically, a fusion of Irina, Katone, and Metis, basically. And her persona, Vasudhara of the Empress Arcana, and I really like how Vasudhara came out. The rock and roll motif, I really love how she turned out, the spikes on her shoulders and like her her attire just looks ridiculously fine, like all the way from like her attire to the gem on her forehead to her freaking hair. It's honestly, this design really did stick out to me the most. And I'm not favoriting for any of the other initial personas, but I ridiculously love this so much. Vasudhara in Hindu mythology is known to being a goddess of wealth, so I pretty much took it into a different perspective. Here is her body right here, and I just fucking love this design. Vasudhara is going to get a 10 out of 10. I really love this design. And there we have it, all the 12 persona users and initial personas of the group. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of all these personas. Even though I had some ratings that were not real, or that they were mostly positive, only 2 of them are negative almost. But then again, Ao Guang, I feel like I'm gonna boost it up to a 8. I'm gonna boost it up to an 8 mainly because I don't want to feel bad for. So basically, only one bad persona. Lobotoro was honestly not really that good. And then again, all the others turned out ridiculously fine. So let me know down in the comments below which initial persona you liked out of all the 12. And then, who knows, maybe if I get another book, I may work on prime forms or ultimate personas or third tiers. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm fine with either. So, if you guys like this stuff, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends or family. Let a comment down below knowing what game you want me to play next on the channel so that way you can see it. Then I feel like that covers all the outro stuff too. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye.